25 and 30% of all children are asthmatic here now. And people are saying how terrible it is. The medical community is saying, let's find better treatments for asthma. What they're not asking is, why? Why, 30 years ago did we have no asthma, and now 25 to 30% of children are asthmatic? Why 20 years ago was 1 child in 20,000 autistic, and now 1 child in 67 is autistic in the United States? We don't even have a register in Australia to see how many kids are autistic, but a school is opening up about a half an hour from me, and the school is specifically there to take care of autistic children. An entire school is being built just for autistic children. Now, we're seeing such huge incidences of these diseases, and everybody's saying let's find better treatments, but nobody's saying what's causing it. And there's no point in treating something unless you're willing to say what's causing it.
Meryl, I've got a job for you. No, I can tell you, it fits right what you're saying right now about asthma and vaccines. There was a study, it was a small study that was done in Australia, and I can't find it anymore. It's not on the internet. It was an organization that was a very staunchly pro-breastfeeding organization that looked at 4 groups: breastfeeding and vaccinated, breastfeeding and unvaccinated, bottle feeding and vaccinated, and bottle feeding and vaccinated. They looked at respiratory illnesses, and it wasn't a very large study, but enough to be interesting. Well, the lowest incidence was obviously breastfed and unvaccinated. What was fascinating, what was second? Bottle feeding and unvaccinated had the second least amount of asthmatic type conditions. And that was really very eye-opening, because that means if you breastfeed, it is not as protective against getting asthma or asthma-related illnesses as not vaccinating your children. And this was a powerful beyond belief, because in our practice we took a look at, we had a very small number of asthmatics, and sure enough, it was only in those that were vaccinated that had it.
Yes, well, I have a copy of that study, Mayor, and I'll get a copy of it to you. It was done by the Nursing Mothers Association of Australia. So I will get that, scan it, and send it off to you. And I'll also send you a study that we did about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was, what we did was we surveyed our readers. At that time, about 600 readers wrote back. And we asked a whole series of questions. Asthma wasn't the only one, but it was asking whether their children were vaccinated, how many of them were vaccinated, how many of them were unvaccinated, and what the incidence of asthma and other conditions were. And then we did exactly the same survey with an Australian parenting magazine, a mainstream parenting magazine, and we got 400 responses back from that. And when we tabulated the responses, it was so telling. I think the final number was that the children who were vaccinated were 6 times more likely to be asthmatic than the children who were unvaccinated. And we tried to get that published in the Medical Journal of Australia, but they wouldn't publish it. They wouldn't even look at it. And it was done very scientifically. We actually had a scientist doing the entire study, writing the questions, tabulating it. He used a special computer program for this, so it would be a fit for publication, but they wouldn't publish it. And this is what happens, unfortunately, when something comes out that questions medical procedures, it doesn't get published in medical journals. But I'll send you a copy of both of those reports, and you're free to share them with anyone on the list.
I promise you, I will share it with the whole world if I could. Because asthma is an extremely serious illness. It almost didn't exist 30 years ago. Virtually didn't exist. And it is almost 100% in my mind related to vaccination. This is just absolutely frightening. I must have your back, because this has been absolutely awesome. And we have, I would say, in excess of 100 questions, but let's try. Karen, let's see if we can get 2 or 3 questions before we finish up, just so we can get our audience to have a little bit of input.
Okay, we have so many people on with so many great questions, and oh my God, I think, I don't know where to start, but I think mainly with the idea that swine flu may be coming back to America in the fall and winter, and this whole thing gearing up for the swine flu. And I mentioned to you before we actually started the webinar, could you address not only, you kind of touched on the issue of vaccinating and the swine flu vaccine coming up, but are people ill in Australia? Are you seeing people dying from swine flu as it is winter by you right now?
We've had some deaths that the government has said is from swine flu, and we have a lot of cases. But I have to say, just like in the United States, just like in every other country, there is no laboratory testing going on. Anytime someone goes to a doctor with flu-like symptoms, that's what they call it, flu-like symptoms, they're diagnosed with swine flu right now. It's assumed that they have swine flu. So is there an outbreak of swine flu? I don't know. The medical community doesn't know. The governments don't know. This is a manufactured outbreak. I have no fear in saying that. Influenza is a disease that does not kill healthy, well-nourished people who don't undergo medical treatments. Now, I know that there was a case in the United States just a couple of days ago where a brother and a sister both died, and they said that they died from swine flu. They were both in hospital. Were they given Tamiflu? Were they given Relenza? What sort of treatments were they given? What was their diet like? You know, there's so many things that you have to look at. There's a great book in Australia. I think it's out of print now, unfortunately, but we do have it in our library. It's called Health, the Only Immunity. And what it basically says is that if your immune system is strong, then it doesn't matter what you're exposed to. You will be able to not only survive it, but pass through it and be stronger out the other end. Because some diseases actually have a beneficial aspect to them. We're not meant to be totally well all of the time. We need to have some illnesses, but you know, fearing the flu is like fearing the cold. And what I've read recently is that only about 20% of cases that we call flu are actually caused by an influenza virus. There are over 200 viruses that can cause flu-like symptoms. So a large majority of what we're calling swine flu is probably being caused by something else, but because we're not doing the testing, we're not seeing it. There's so much information coming out about influenza, and I'm sure Mayor can tell a lot of people about other ways of not only preventing the flu but treating it if you do get sick that will keep you healthy. And again, I recommend, Karen, thank you for getting that website. It's pandemicfluonline.com. There's some fantastic information there about what you should know about swine flu. Fear is probably one of the worst things to make a decision, one of the worst ways to make a decision. And if you're afraid of the swine flu, well, that's a sign that you actually need to be getting more information. It's nothing to fear. From all evidence, people who have been laboratory diagnosed with swine flu had a milder case of flu than people who've been diagnosed with normal human influenza. So I don't think that it's something that's going to be killing people unless they treat it in a medical way. With our family, when we get sick with anything, we use garlic, vitamin C, echinacea, and zinc, and normally it's within a couple of days we're over it. And we don't really fear these diseases. We just take care of our health as much as we can with good diet, good nutrition, fresh air, and just a good environment as much as we can. You know, in this modern world, we can't guarantee a completely clean environment, but as much as we can, we do. So I think that people need to get rid of the fear and just get informed. Oh, and sorry, Karen's just put up another website that's fantastic, drtenpenny.com. That's Sherry Tenpenny, and she's probably one of the world's experts, leading experts on influenza. So, yeah, definitely check out her website as well.
I'm going to go one step further. She is the world's expert. You know? I mean, I have not met anyone who. Poor Sherry is staying up all night long, just researching, you know, and just getting her information out. I mean, just absolutely outstanding. Gary, I know we have lots more questions still.
Right. A couple people asked regarding the chart that's on the screen right now. They wanted to know if the increase that you're seeing, was there a corresponding increase in population in Australia over this time?
There was a small increase over this time, but When you look at it on a per capita or per head of population basis, our rate is higher now of whooping cough infections than it's ever been before. That's a good question. In 1991, our population would have been about 18 million. Right now it's about 20.